Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. I would also like to remind you that in addition to the audience in this room, we have people watching and listening online. So please consider your language and comments and testimony today. Today's meeting is a hybrid board meeting. Some presenters and guests will appear virtually. For those presenting virtually, please mute your mic when not speaking. And when presenting, make sure to unmute your mic and turn on your camera. For those joining us in person to provide public testimony or present, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking so the green light is showing, and off when you've completed your remarks so the red light is showing. For all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. May I have a motion on the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Brim Edwards moves. Commissioner Jones Dixon seconds. Approval of the consent calendar.
Yep, and I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Moyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton,
Aye.
Commissioner Brim Edwards, Commissioner Jones Dixon,
Aye.
Chair Vega Peterson.
Aye, the consent calendar is approved.
Opportunity for public comment on non-agenda matters. This is the time for the board to hear public testimony, not for board deliberation. When it is your turn to speak, I'll call your name and unmute you or call you to the presenter's table. I'll set a timer for 3 minutes when you begin speaking and announce when your time is up, at which point please wrap up your sentence. Chair, we received 9 verbal testimonies, which were shared with board members and staff. I'll call 4 people at a time. In person first. Walter Schreiner, Kelly O'Hanley, Noah Robinson, and Suzanne Corder.
Good morning. You can begin speaking. Go. You can begin. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Kelly O'Hanley, and I am one of a group of citizens who's been working with you to bring forward the fossil fuel financial assistance ordinance. Drafts of the ordinance are progressing very nicely. The new mayor of Portland has voiced his approval. And so, given that a mega earthquake is overdue, given that how many near catastrophic accidents at the CI hub we've dodged, given that just last month the board affirmed its commitment to the ordinance, we anticipate that you will be ushering the ordinance across the finish line very soon. And when you do, know that you are all invited, one and all, to praise the Lord. We finally did it. Party that we, the risky business people, will be throwing. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Walter Schreiner. I'm a college educator and proud resident of Multnomah County. I want to echo my friend's support for the commission and encouragement for you to act with haste to continue and complete the work of the last commission on risk bonds for the operators of storage facilities at the CEI hub. And I want to thank Commissioners Moyer and Singleton for taking up the banner. I'm guessing that perhaps you have been even busier than usual the last few weeks, and you might not have been able to attend or watch the Portland City Council work session on January 2nd. So today I'm going to read into the record the strong statement of support voiced by the Mayor Wilson and Councilor Clark. At the meeting, Councilor Clark asked Mayor Wilson where the CEI hub was on his agenda. After staff provided some updates, the mayor shared these words. You know, Councilor, let me just also add that Portland doesn't stand alone. We must stand with Multnomah County because they have very important programs that they're working on, mitigation, insurances, and all. Let's make sure that all of us, getting out of the gate, that we work on that collaboration with the county, just like we have with homelessness, with Chair Vega Peterson. The only reason we're here to announce the opening of the shelters was because of that direct conversation. Let's make sure that all 13 of us are working closely with the county to make sure we're addressing this work as well. And the focus on the CEI hub I've always thought that we reduce the use of liquid fuels, we do everything we possibly can to transition away from liquids, and then we focus on removing and reducing those tanks when we can. And then we focus on restoring that waterfront back to Portland, and I'd add the county. You can see that even with the new form of government, with many challenges facing the council, that this is the top of their minds, and they're ready and eager to support the county's efforts. We all know that there's no time to waste. We don't want to say we should have done this sooner. The time is now, and I thank you for your commitment to our safety.
Thank you. Good morning.
My name is Noah Robinson. I have a PhD in chemistry from Caltech. I'm vice president of the Oregon Institute of Science and Medicine, the Little Research Institute, and I'm also a senator-elect from District 2 for Oregon. I'm here to object to a lawsuit filed by Multnomah County. It started against 30 oil companies for providing fuel to the county on the grounds they claimed that they had affected the climate and caused the heat waves. The science on this is not very good. But even worse than that, I'm afraid that Multnomah County is almost certainly going to lose the lawsuit because it doesn't make sense to sue a company for providing oil in the past and continuing to buy the oil from them because you need it. But a number of years ago, my dad, who's the current senator in District 2, circulated a petition which was signed by 31,000 scientists urging the United States government and local governments not to take any action on this because the science was flawed. It was just a simple freedom of speech, right to petition the government. Well, your lawyers decided to decided that this was also illegal and that they would sue the parties involved. And even worse, they sued the Oregon Institute of Science and Medicine, which was not involved in the lawsuit at all. I mean, was not involved in the petition project at all. So they've sued the wrong party. And I think I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of this because we contacted the lawyers on your side and told them, no, gave them plenty of evidence. This was done by a group of scientists. It was a freedom of speech issue, but the Oregon Institute of Science and Medicine was not involved, and they just refused to remove us from the lawsuit. So right now, millions of dollars in legal fees are being run up by lawyers on both sides. I assume Multnomah County has lots of money and wants to pay this, but I think it's taxpayer money and should be more careful. So I just wanted to register my objection to that. I have here the correspondence on both sides. I'd like to give all of you a copy of it. And we've been worried about this issue for a long time. The science is flawed. We can go into that. Natural variation is causing these small climate fluctuations rather than what is claimed by a lot of people. But I don't think we should be suing small research institutes for something they didn't do. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And you can leave materials with the board clerk.
I'll do that.
And she'll make sure it gets distributed. Thank you. Good morning.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Corder. I am a resident of the East County District 4, and I came here today because I wanted to see and meet the new board, especially Commissioner Jones-Dickson. I was here in December hoping to express my discontent with the previous commissioner because she didn't come out and she didn't really meet with us I shared then out of 45 emails sent to her from our community. We got 3 responses, none from her directly. So I'm hoping, sir, that we have a little better communication with you. We're part of the community out there that lives right next to where Portland Water Bureau is building their new water filtration plant. And we're being devastated is the bottom line. You can barely go down the roads. The safety is really a huge concern. We're not getting answers. When I say the board, I'm meaning probably the previous board approved this by letting all their departments, whether it was land use or transportation, or even the sheriff's department, let this go through and give a pass to the city of Portland. And I know that there's comments on your website saying you had to work in partnership with the city, not necessarily on this project, but in partnership with the city to get work done. We're the county. We are very different. We're a rural reserve. We're not being allowed to stay a rural reserve. You seem to just ignore that. And it's, I don't know what to do. We never get any response. And Chair, you gave us your assistant to help us in December to help us with the project, but he still hasn't answered the main question we want, which is who is monitoring the conditions that were laid down from land use for this project, and to whom do the people report violations that they see? we can't get an answer from anyone. It doesn't matter which departments we reach out to, and we're going to keep reaching out, but we need some help. And you're the governing body for the county, and that's who we are, county. We're not part of the city, but the city has put their largest ever, what do you say that word is? Can't, sorry, anyway, their biggest project ever in their history out in the county rather than in the city. And that was allowed. So I'm just basically saying, I'm hoping this new board is going to be a little more on board with communication. And we do need to know who's in charge of the conditions. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll have staff is here to follow up.
Next, we have Chris Quarter, Chris Hawes, Deanne Salazar, Sunderland, and Lightning.
Good morning. You can begin. Yes. And sir, just hit, oh, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Chris Quarter. I'm a homeowner in the East Multnomah County area. And thank you for paying attention. Thank you for listening. As a former teacher, the truism was that we tell our students, if you want to be successful in school, the most important skill is listening. I would assume that's pretty important for you people too. We're a long ways from home. We live out in a rural area. We live out in the country, as they say. Farms, large farms, small ones, you know, the huge horticulture, nurseries out there, and then our little hobby farms. I live on 10 acres, 200 blueberry plants that we use as a business. So the decision for the filtration plant has been a disaster for us, destroyed our quality of life. This unnecessary government trophy project that some of you voted for, thanks a lot. 500 trucks a day, noise, lights. This morning we got at 3:30 a.m. they started. They're not supposed to start till 7, so the conditions are kind of a joke to them, to the construction companies and so on. They just do what they want. So we need someone who does care. We need someone who has our backs, who's going to share our goals, going to share our dreams for our community. Because some of us understand this kind of stuff. Once you've allowed this huge project to go in, there's going to be more. There's going to be other industries, there are going to be other major projects that they're going to want to come our way now. And we don't want that to happen. Some people here don't really give a rip about that. We know that. We're hoping that some of you now do. Some new people, Mr. Jones Dixon especially. We want to keep it as it is as much as possible. We can be reasonable. And I guess our question is, are you the person? Are you the person who's going to be on our side? Who's going to be brave enough, strong enough to stand up for us, have our back, support us? Because they're going to, in subtle ways and not so subtle ways, some of these other people are going to try to influence you. Can you represent us this time? Because the past person did not at all. Can you protect us? That's not a rhetorical question.
We don't have comment back and forth dialogue, but
I'm making.
message is clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Chris Hawes. In the interest of full disclosure, I'm the board president for Clackamas Fire District 1 and the board chair for Sunrise Water Authority, but I am not here today in any of those capacities. I'm here because this Portland water treatment plant is being built in the neighborhood I grew up in. My 88-year-old mother still lives out there. We're watching trucks go through. The Oregon land use system is very clear that public utility projects that affect EFU property are very strictly regulated. They can only be built there if they cannot be built anywhere else. Cost isn't a factor, nothing is a factor. This was allowed to happen because they put the treatment plant on a piece of property that somehow miraculously a few years back got changed to MU-28 out in the middle of nowhere, except now we can't really find the paperwork where that happened. But what they've done is put the water treatment plant there and then said, well, since the treatment plant's there, we have to put the pipes through the EFU. That's not how the system's supposed to work. If that project can't function without those pipes, then the pipes are the project, the treatment plant and the project. And in that case, this should never have been allowed to build there. It should be at Powell Butte, and it would save the ratepayers of Portland at least $750 million because that's what it's going to cost them to blow those things through basalt rock that they're going to go through. You're probably going to lose a LUBA decision if the Oregon land use system actually means what it's supposed to. I think it's a silly mess, and it always has been. But it's what we're all supposed to live by. And it's not being done in this case. This was a leapfrog. If a private entity tried to do this, they'd be laughed out. There would be injunctions from hell to breakfast right now to stop what's going on out there. They're playing a game of how much money can you spend, how fast, so at some point they can say, gee, we've spent this much money, what are we going to do now? Well, that's really too bad. But what's going on, you gave conditions that no one can say what the conditions are or who's monitoring. Portland Water Bureau is responsible for the roads for half mile in a radius. Guess what? Those hundreds of trucks a day are tearing up the roads for miles all around. My next stop next week is going to be the Clackamas County Commission because our roads in Clackamas County are getting torn up because they're hauling it over to where I live. And they right now in violation, they've dumped contaminated dirt at one of the headwaters to Noyer Creek that drops into the Clackamas River where 300,000 people get their drinking water. I don't think they'll be happy about it. And I'm going to look into that too. What's been allowed to happen here is terrible. I've lived out in that area for a long time, and we're kind of used to knowing that the county thinks of anything east of 122nd really doesn't exist. But this has been done not for the benefit of the people out there, but for the benefit of Portland. And it's been put out there so that they're not inconvenienced by the thing that's going to benefit them. This isn't the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. This is the needs of the many are dumping the inconvenience on a few that don't benefit at all. And it's a very dangerous situation. I hope you can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Commissioners. I am Dean Salazar, and I'm here to testify today regarding the critical need to fund the Sunderland Safe Village to keep it open. This past election cycle, Mayor Keith Wilson was elected with quite a crucial mandate in order to end unsheltered street camping and ensuring that we are getting people off the streets. And Sunderland is a crucial part of this effort because it's going to ensure that we have enough, we need to have more shelter beds, and we also need to ensure that we are getting and following through with the plan that the county and the city are collaborating on. In addition, safe routes to school aren't possible unless we are getting people off the streets into shelter. So we need to ensure that we're doing this as quickly as possible for those youth who are going to school, whether on the bus, whether they walk, so that they are all able to go there safely and be able to trust that they can go to school without anything concerning happening. That is all, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll have someone else coming down, so you are welcome to go back to your seats. Thank you for being here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Superhumanity R&D Lab X. Again, just for the record, on the consent agenda, I wanted to have pulled C1 through C5. And again, Chair Peterson will use her authority to deny me that request every time I ask for a consent agenda to be pulled. She denies it. I'm looking forward on bringing an attorney in and having her being advised that the public does have a right to do public communication on items when they request them to be pulled. You're denying me that right, and I will be seeking an attorney on that issue. Issue number 2, on the Expo Center, the sports center they plan on developing Metro for 300 to 500 million. As you remember, when I was defending your supportive housing services measure and saying, do not let them begin to dismantle that and throw that out to the voters, one of the comments she made was, we don't want to throw anything out to the voters right now, especially a bond, because we feel that a lot of people are not willing to vote on that. Well, in her own words, on this Expo Center, she has stated that we plan on doing a property tax measure to fund that. What she is saying is going completely against what she stated on your SHS measure on why she's beginning to dismantle that. Again, you need to stop her from doing anything on that SHS measure. You need to continue receiving your money, and you need to make sure they do not throw that out to the public for another vote, because you will lose this time around. President Donald Trump reduces taxes. The people like to hear that also. If you roll that out to the public right now, you will lose. She will lose on that property tax measure. Again, I'm asking my good friend from Nike, Phil Knight, to make an offer to purchase the Expo Center, to develop out the sports center, and that way we are guaranteed to have that completed in the right hands to operate it properly and to make sure it gets done. President Peterson lives in fantasy land. And for you to come over here to try to deplete some of this SHS money to use for whatever purpose you want, and now I think I know what that purpose is foolishness. We watch every move you make and we call you out on it. And you've been called out, President Peterson, and do not go after the SHS measure in any way that could jeopardize it.
Thank you.
Next online, we have Karen Cherry. Karen, are you able to unmute and begin?
Hello, my name is Karen T. Ray. I own and operate Stadium Superette. I'm Northwest 20th across from Providence Park. I've come today to talk about the homeless. I know that we have complained about the homeless invading our neighborhoods in previous testimonies. Today I'm speaking to advocate for them. There seems to be a distinct group, possibly more, of the homeless population. The unfortunate circumstance, the addicted to drugs, and the mentally ill. Sometimes those can be a cross-section of either category, which would then create other diverse groups. I've gotten to know some of the homeless in our Stadium Hood neighborhood. I learned that some are on the street from when COVID happened, others got into trouble with the law, some grew up in foster care and got kicked out. I spoke to one of our regulars, customers the other day, super nice guy, and I asked him if he were offered a job, would he want to work? And he said a resounding yes. He's tired of living on the street. Most days he doesn't sleep because if he does, his stuff would be taken. He told me he applied for housing, but it was told it would be 4 years before he could get in. I asked him if he had a caseworker or a social worker helping him navigate the different services being offered, and he said no. He was never told he could have one. So my question to you is, are there caseworkers for homeless people? And if not, there should be. I asked him how he came to live on the streets of Portland, and he said he had worked as a forklift driver for a construction company. When COVID hit, he lost his job and eventually wound up on the street in another city. He bounced around from one city to the next and landed here. He does not want to be homeless. He does want to be a productive member of society again. So how do we help him get there? So here's some examples of the unfortunate circumstance group. The unfortunate circumstance people had jobs and then they lost them during COVID or whatever the event caused it. Because who became homeless and didn't know how to get back into workforce because they were homeless with no support. So my question to you is, why are we not supporting these people to opt to come back to work? So we do have an organization called WorkSource Oregon that helps people find jobs and provides them help with free training, one-on-one coaching, workshops, resume writing, etc. I've checked if we feel it would help at least 50% of the people on the street to get to the street. But we just need to help them on this program. And then I also learned about House Bill 2784 that allows employers to hire homeless day workers and apply for a federal waiver from federal payroll tax requirements. So as a business owner myself, I would be more than willing to hire a homeless person to get some tax benefits. And then I also learned about House Bill 3032 that gives substantial tax breaks to a homeowner.
Time is up.
You guys have all my other stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, that is all the public testimony for today.
Thanks, Marina. Let's move on to R1.
R1, budget modification DCHS. Budget modification DCHS 00425, appropriate $3.9 million in Oregon Eviction Diversion and Prevention Program state funding.
May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Bram Edwards moves, Commissioner Singleton seconds, approval of R1. Good morning. So today, this new board is taking action on our first budget modification, often referred to as a BUD mod. We take up, and just so you know, I'm going to be giving a little explanatory statements with some of these actions we're taking because we have such a new board, and I think it's also helpful for the public to understand the actions that we're taking with the start of a new year. So we take up a budget modification when we need to increase or decrease revenues and expenditures, FTE, transfers from the general fund contingency to reclassify positions. Those are usually done on the consent agenda, or if a department needs to make a policy or programmatic change, even if the net budget impact is $0 in terms of the impact to funds within a department. Technically, Oregon budget law requires that the board approve any increase in a department's fund level appropriation, even if it is for $1. Budget modifications are one of the ways we have transparency around these funding adjustments and are able to ask questions, dialogue, and help our departments make sound fiscal decisions. Factors that help determine whether a BUD mod is on our consent agenda or a regular agenda relate to the policy implications, amount of the budget modification, and where the money is coming from. BUD mods are often related to funding we receive from other jurisdictions, like the one which is designed to help our Department of County Human Services appropriate state funding today. So today's BUD mod covers one of our most critically important areas of upstream intervention, eviction prevention. Without our consistent work to keep thousands housed each year, our homelessness crisis would be worse than it is. These state dollars will help our Youth and Family Services Division support more than 700 new households currently experiencing housing insecurity or at risk of losing housing within the month. They are some of our most vulnerable, and this support will be a critical stopgap that will successfully keep families in housing and support them through some of the hardest days and weeks they will face. Every household served in this program is living on a low income and desperately trying to make ends meet. I'm glad to have our Department of County Human Services Deputy Director Rachel Pearl with us today to provide more specifics about this funding and budget modification. Rachel, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. The sun is shining, new faces up there on the board, so welcome to all of our new commissioners. My name's Rachel Pearl. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Deputy Director for what I call the best department here at Multnomah County, Department of County Human Services. I'm not lying. It's okay, Margie. You don't have to get upset. I love all the departments. Everyone's doing a great job. I just am lucky to work for the best one. That's just how that's working. So I'm up here with my brilliant colleague, Lolita Broadus, who I will pass this over to, and she'll walk through the details of this budget modification. We are here requesting approval for the DCHS budget modification 00425.
Morning, Lolita.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. As previously stated, we are here to get approval for the additional ORIDAP funding that was given to DCHS to do homeless prevention work. in the amount of $3.8 million, a little over. This money came as a result of a short session where they granted, where the state granted $34 million to organizations that were doing eviction prevention and homelessness resources and prevention. This, over the biennium, the full amount was 5.7 million, in which we are using all this year to ensure spend down of ARPA funding. So we have prioritized other funding and have not yet used this funding until like January, just now, started using it to ensure that we have spent down other funding, and we are on track to serve at least 700 families with this funding. With this additional funding, this funding was also split between two different program offers, one in which is with our Bienestar, De La Familia, and as well as our Home Forward and Straw partners, in which provides additional access to the community. I'll stop there. Any questions?
We will see if there are any questions. So we'll go through the board by district to see if there are any questions or comments about today's budget modification. And we will start with District 1. We won't always start with District 1, so just know that.
Correct. This is one-time money, and if I read it correctly, it ends in June, is that correct?
Yes.
Are the 701 new households that are going to be served, what supports or what will happen at the end of this funding?
At the end of this funding, we just have a decrease in funding and we're unable to serve as many families. Like, this was really great that we got an additional funding for this last year.
And with the understanding that this is one-time 6-month funding, what work is going to accompany this to ensure a safe transition for these families when it ends?
It's an ongoing challenge for us as we navigate rent assistance. And, obviously we had a significant investment in rental assistance during the pandemic, and that allowed for us to support a lot more families that were in need as we see rents increasing, income flatlining, and that becomes a challenge. So really, each situation is looked at individually. Some families have payments that need to be made in the arrears so that they can be caught up, and then future payments made as well. So each situation is looked at individually. We also, a lot of the partner organizations, as well as our internal county programs like Bienestar, work with families to try to help connect them with other resources for stabilization, recognizing that this isn't the only support and service that families need. And we're continuing to navigate decreased investments in these services. So it's a continuous challenge that we look forward to working with you all on as we approach this coming budget season.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. And thank you for just sharing the information and some of the households that can be, sizes that can be served and all of those components. And I think as Commissioner Moyer is pointing to, there's a larger conversation we need to have as a county about retention services. And I think that's not just a you all problem, right? That's a bigger problem. One question I have, it's a lot of money in a short period. Your providers all are on board and feel like they can spend this in that time?
Yes.
And I see it says it's all direct client assistance, and then they probably have some staffing, but indirect is covered for your providers. I know we're not taking indirect, but the providers are getting that in their allocations.
Yes, we have a centralized access Home Forward, who processes all of the eviction prevention rent supports for the providers. So we pay like one fee for to Home Forward.
Okay. And just in the future, I do want us to be making sure we're talking to providers because it is additional admin for them as well in deploying this, even if it's through the straw program. So I totally appreciate that. And this is a one-time, but just as an ongoing component for us to be considering. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bremen Edwards.
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Safe, no questions, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions either. I appreciate you bringing it forward and for explaining everything today. This is going to be a great investment that will definitely have very real impact on those 701 families. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Marina, did we have any public testimony on this item?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon,
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson.
Aye. The budget modification is approved.
R2, ordinance amending Multnomah County zoning code to incorporate amendments to the City of Portland zoning code, Title 33, allowing adjustments as part of the Housing Adjustment Compliance Program and making odor code updates, amendments to the Portland Sign Code, Title 32, increasing flexibility in the Rose Quarter Sign Code, and amendments to the Portland Tree Code, Title 11, permanently adopting the large tree regulations and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Brim Edwards moves. Commissioner Jones-Dixon seconds approval of R2. So this is another board action that we take. This is one that we see on occasion as the City of Portland and the county have an intergovernmental agreement to manage development in urban pockets of Multnomah County. These zoning code amendments come to the county once the City Council has approved them. If there are any changes requested by commissioners today, those changes would need to go back to the City Council for approval. Today, this ordinance is being read as an emergency ordinance, which means that there will only be one public meeting on it and a unanimous vote of this commission is needed to pass it. If only a majority of the commission approves, this can still move forward, but it will need a second public hearing to review and consider. We have representatives from both our Department of County Services and the City of Portland with us here today. I will turn that presentation over to them for the next steps. Good morning.
Chair and Commissioners, my name is Megan Gibb. I use she, hers pronouns, and I'm the new Land Use Planning Director. I started in the fall. I'm here with Kevin Cook, who's a long-range planning on our team, and some city staff who I'll let Kevin introduce as well. As the Chair mentioned, we're here to present city code changes to you for consideration. But first, I wanted to provide a little bit of context for the IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement. Next slide, please. In 1986, we developed an IGA with the City of Portland, where we agreed it would be mutually beneficial if the city, on our behalf, conducted planning for the pockets of unincorporated areas that are in the county's jurisdiction, but outside city boundaries. Next slide, please. You can see those little urban pockets in red there on that map. This IGA is a cooperative agreement that states whenever the city updates their comp plan, zoning code, or zoning map, these changes come to your board that may impact those small pockets. These code updates have been approved by the City Council, as was mentioned. And of the code changes that are being presented today, there's only 2 that could possibly apply to these pockets. And we'll have Kevin and the city staff talk about that more. Also, just as an FYI, we will be working with city staff this upcoming year to update the IGA to allow for more administrative efficiencies. Kevin's going to provide a quick overview, and then we've got city staff available here and online if you have detailed questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Kevin Cook, he, him pronouns. I'm a senior planner with the Department of Community Services. Joined today by my City of Portland colleagues, Phil Namini and Brian Lando is online. They're here to answer any questions regarding specifics of these 4 city ordinances. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the 4 city projects. So next slide, please. Yes, perfect. The housing adjustments, this allows temporary adjustments, which are really, adding more flexibility for development standards like lot size and height limits. This complies with the new state law, Senate Bill 1537, And again, provides flexibility for maintaining the city's existing review process. And Portland Code currently allows several adjustments that are referred to in the bill. The proposed changes bring Portland zoning code in line with these new state requirements. And this is again just about adding more flexibility for housing. These provisions would potentially apply in the urban pocket for developments related to middle housing. So next slide, please. So the next one is the Rose Quarter signage project. So this is not applicable in the urban pockets, but this change will not, doesn't impact the urban pockets, but it modernizes sign regulations in the Rose Quarter Entertainment District to accommodate the needs for large venues in the Moda, like the Moda Center. This includes allowing larger, more dynamic displays, and while at the same time mitigating, light pollution. So next slide, please. And so this next one is the odor code update. So again, this creates clearer, more objective standards for odor regulation, shifting from a complaint-driven system to one focused on measurable criteria. And we also note that the odor code will no longer be applicable in the urban pockets because it's being removed from the city zoning code. So it's going to a different code. And so the next slide, please. And so finally, the large tree protection ordinance. So this permanently adopts the large tree amendment, which discourages the removal of large trees through increased fees. It contributes to the canopy preservation and environmental benefits. The large tree amendment has a minimal impact on housing development, especially to affordable housing. And so that essentially concludes our presentation, and want to leave enough time for questions. So thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Kevin. I appreciate having City of Portland folks here for any questions that we have. We'll go to the board for questions or comments. But before I do that, did we have any public testimony on this item?
No, Chair.
Thank you. We'll start with Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. I just want to appreciate both City and Kevin for answering my questions about the large tree and as far as it damaging, when it's damaging a dwelling unit and if the fee applies, and really breaking that down for me. So thank you for spending the time on that. And I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brim Edwards.
Thanks for the presentation. Just looking at the maps, there is only a little teeny piece that would be impacting of this that would be impacting District 3. I think that's probably the least impact of any of the districts. But I am curious about the communication that happened, if any, with the impacted residents or businesses that will be impacted by these regulations. Were they communicated, like these changes are being made? It's probably most specifically the large tree amendment. And then what response, if any, did you receive?
Hi, Commissioner. Sure, I can answer that. So my name is Brian Lando. I'm with Urban Forestry of the City of Portland. So in terms of direct communication to impacted property owners, there wasn't any sort of like direct mailings or anything like that. We followed a process that we typically do with code amendments, where we met with a lot of the key stakeholders, which are typically the development community, since these regulations are specific to private property development situations. It's also a provision of the code that's been in place since 2016. This amendment simply removed a sunset clause where that provision would have expired on December 31st, 2024. So it has the effect of continuing regulations that have been in place. But our outreach was primarily to some of the city advisory committees that are advisory on city code. So the Planning Commission, Urban Forestry Commission, and then several of the development trade groups as well were consulted, as well as the city's development review advisory commission also.
And was there any comment back on the proposed changes?
Yeah, so we received mostly support for it, and then for the development committee, it's a provision that provides pretty narrowly actually. So only about 13% of trees get to the size threshold where this fee comes into play, and a lot of most of the area of Portland where this provision applies, or most of the area in Portland where most housing is zoned to take place, about 80% of where housing is expected to go is actually exempt from the tree code in development situations. So we didn't really get much pushback or negative feedback on this, since it's a pretty narrow provision in terms of preserving the largest trees, mostly in the areas of the city where most development is not expected to occur. Over the last 3 years, only 3% of residential housing developments have actually paid a fee under this.
And the reason they're exempt is because they're larger developments versus, so you're saying that it actually applies mostly to individual property owners?
Yeah, so there's some pretty broad exemptions in the tree code for development activity, and it's really there to facilitate the development of new housing. And those are mainly lots under 5,000 square feet. So some of the smaller infill developments are largely exempt. All affordable housing projects are exempt as well. And then this is getting a little bit technical, but essentially in the sort of higher density zones that are the city center, along centers and in corridors and town centers like St. John's and Selwood, those zones that allow for greater lot coverage, which is where most of our larger multifamily units are going to be going in, those are also exempt as well. And so that's basically where 80% of our future housing is zoned for. Those are essentially exempt. So that's why this doesn't apply that much in most of the housing production that we see.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Commissioner.
No comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just had one question, and it kind of followed over Commissioner Singleton's about, I appreciate your interest in the winter storms, and that I'm curious how, if you have, a tree in your yard and there's somebody who comes in and takes a look at it and says like, this tree is at risk of falling or is damaged, how do these rules apply to that situation?
Yeah, great question. So these fees specifically are for private property development situations only. If in the situation you described where there's a dangerous tree, hazardous tree, those would follow our non-development removal procedure. And in that case, the property owner would apply for a tree removal permit. A tree inspector from Urban Forestry would go out and assess the tree. And if the tree, there's a few other provisions, but if the tree is dead, dying, or dangerous, then the tree is allowed to be removed. There are also other provisions for the removal of healthy trees in certain circumstances, but absolutely, if the tree is deemed to be a hazardous tree or a dead tree, then permit is issued.
Great. I really appreciate that. So thank you, Megan. Great to see you, Kevin, and JP and Brian. Thanks for coming over from the city. Appreciate that. Marina, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Aye.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye. The ordinance is adopted by emergency.
Thank you.
All right. We will now recess as the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners and convene as the governing body for the Dunthorpe Riverdale Sanitary Service District Number 1.
R3, resolution approving a petition to annex a single parcel of land for the Dunthorpe Riverdale Service District pursuant to ORS 2023.857 and authorizing the chair to provide the district's endorsement on the petition.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Jones Dixon seconds, approval of R3. So this is also another action that we occasionally do as a board, as the commission is the voting authority over a few districts for utilities and lighting within the county. As I just read, we'll convene now as the district board for this item and close out as that district board once this item is completed. The Multnomah County Commission created the Dunthorpe Riverdale County Sewer District in 1964. It was organized to construct and operate sanitary sewer service in the unincorporated southwest areas of the county. Because by 1970, sewer service in this area had eliminated a significant source of pollution in the Willamette River. The district consists of 571 households. I will now turn it over to our expert on these issues, Chet Hagan, our program manager for this service district, to walk through the specifics of the requested action within the district today. Chet, good morning and thanks for being here.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners, and welcome the new commissioners as well. For the record, my name is Chet Hagan, Program Manager in Community Services, and I'm also the Administrator for the Dunthorpe Riverdale Service District. I use he, him pronouns. Today, I'd like to introduce a petition to annex into the service district a property owner whose home is currently outside our district boundary. These annexations are governed by Oregon Statute Chapter 198 and Metro Code 3.09. The property we're considering for annexation is located adjacent to the far southern end of the district and in unincorporated Clackamas County at 394 Southwest Edgecliff Road. And I know this is an unusual situation, asking the county board to approve an annexation in another county, but since the service district provides sewer service to properties in both Multnomah and Clackamas counties, and the majority of properties are within Multnomah County, our board acts as the governing body for property in both counties. The property owners are rebuilding a single-family home, which is currently not connected to a public sewer system. In order for us to provide sanitary sewer service, the district is required by state law to annex this single 0.96 acre parcel, and then we can permit construction and connect it to our public sanitary sewer system. District staff recommend that the district board approve the petition for annexation. The district has the capacity to provide sanitary sewer service to the property from a nearby pipe, and the development aligns with the City of Lake Oswego's comprehensive plan. And finally, the petition is complete and complies with state statute and Metro Code. With that, I'm ready to answer any questions that the district board may have.
Thank you so much, Chet. Did we receive any public testimony on this?
No,
item?
Chair.
Thank you. We'll go to the board for questions or comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Brim Edwards.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones Dixon?
Same, thank you, Chair.
All right. Commissioner Moyer?
No questions.
Commissioner Singleton?
No questions today.
Thank you. I have no questions either, so Chet, great job. We'll now take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Aye.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye, the resolution is adopted. We will adjourn as the governing body for the Dunthorpe Riverdale Sanitary Service District Number 1 and reconvene as the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners.
R4, Notice of Intent to Apply for Oregon Community Paths Grant, Planning for Troutdale Road Multi-Use Path.
May I have a motion?
Second.
Commissioner Joan Dixon's move, Commissioner Brim Edwards seconds, approval of R4. So I will say for this one, county policy lists factors that do set a threshold for whether a grant request will be on the consent agenda or here as a regular item. This is why we'll see grant application requests in different places as they come before the board. For this item, a local funding match of 10% would be needed if the grant was secured. Therefore, it comes before the board today as a regular item. I'm actually very excited about this grant proposal as the project, which would advance the work to fill a 1.6-mile trail gap between Troutdale and Mount Hood Community College, directly connects to our work on making critical safety improvements, offering more emissions-reducing transportation options, and serving underserved communities by better connecting where people live, go to school, and enjoy nature. I'm pleased to see this action come out of the East Multnomah County Transportation Safety Action Plan and would involve the work of the East Multnomah County Transportation Committee moving forward. I deeply appreciate the people involved in these efforts, and they have my gratitude and thanks. I'm now happy to welcome Allison Boyd from the Department of Community Services Transportation Division to fill in a few more details for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Allison Boyd, she, her pronouns. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager with the Department of Community Services. And I'm here today to request your approval to pursue funding from the Oregon Community Pass Program. This is a grant administered by the Oregon Department of Transportation that is focused on helping communities make connections through multi-use pass. We have a great project for this funding opportunity, as the Chair was mentioning. It's on a county road in the city of Troutdale. We are looking to fund planning, community engagement, and preliminary engineering for a multi-use path that would run along Troutdale Road from Cherry Park Road to Stark Street. This segment of Troutdale Road has incomplete sidewalks and bike lanes, as well as a high rate of crashes. It's located in an equity focus area between downtown Troutdale and Mount Hood Community College in Gresham. And the corridor provides access to transit, housing, businesses, and recreational areas. We've heard from the community the need to make this road safer, including in the outreach we did this past summer. A multi-use path will welcome people of all ages and abilities to walk, roll, and cycle in a space physically separated from vehicle traffic and accessible for people with disabilities. We've been pursuing opportunities to fill these bike and pedestrian gaps for many years, but there is a pinch point along the road where it crosses over Beaver Creek with a narrow culvert, and that greatly increases the cost of doing a project on this road. But we have recently been successful in securing federal grants to replace the culvert on Beaver Creek under Troutdale Road, which was also the last major obstacle for fish passage on Beaver Creek that we needed to remove. As we replace the culvert and widen the crossing in this section, the Oregon Community Pass Grant would help us take the next steps in completing safe bike and pedestrian connections along Troutdale Road. A multi-use path on Troutdale Road would also help advance completion of the regional 40-mile loop trail. Several years ago, Metro conducted a project with the East County communities to look at potential routes to connect the 40-mile loop trail from Troutdale to Gresham, and Troutdale Road was one of the routes that looks most promising for doing that. We have support from the City of Troutdale, Metro, the 40-Mile Loop Trust, and the County Bike and Pedestrian Community Advisory Committee to pursue this project. We are requesting $694,000 in grant funding and would provide a local match of approximately $80,000. If we receive the grant, the outcome would be a concept design with a detailed cost estimate developed with inclusive community engagement. This would allow us to pursue future grants for construction of the path. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Marina, did we have any public comment on this item?
No, Chair.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the commissioners to see who has any questions or comments. We'll start with Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Allison. Just want to say I'm excited and fully supportive of the project and just the safe routes to school and everything. And just let us know what we can do to support from our office as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Moyer.
Yeah, I also am excited about this proposal and wish you the best of luck in your grant application.
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton.
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Burnett-Edwards.
Supportive and no questions.
And I am supportive as well. Wish you the luck on this. Marina, can we have a roll call vote? Thank you.
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett-Edwards? Yes. Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes, of course.
Chair Vega-Peterson?
Aye. The notice of intent is approved. Thank you. All right, so that is our all of our agenda items for today. So at the end of board meetings, we normally have time for board comments on non-agenda items. So I'll just open it up to commissioners to see who has any items or information they want to share today. Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to respond to the comments from Susan, Chris Porter, and Chris Voss. Just wanted to acknowledge that we hear your comments and we look forward to working with Director Bradway as far as a response. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Yes, I have two things. The first is governance related. I'm glad to see that we have very early in the calendar year, a discussion about our priorities as a commission. I think that's going to be really important. And I would hope and ask that we could, before we get too far into the year, schedule time to have a discussion about the work plan. I know Commissioner Singleton and the chair are taking the lead on bringing something forward, but getting a work plan. And then the second item that I would love to have is a jurisdiction, a calendar of our meetings. So the assumption is we have Tuesday briefings and Thursday board meetings or work sessions. Sometimes those get canceled, and there's not a set schedule, and most governmental jurisdictions generally have a set schedule when there's going to be a break. Say if we know everybody's going to be at a particular conference, so that we can sort of set that in advance. It also would allow us to look at our work plan of what we're trying to accomplish and align it with our meeting schedule. So I hope those are things that we can add to the overall agenda. The second item I wanted to raise today, I've had some time to think about the work session that we had on Tuesday relating to the Metro measure. And there was a presentation midway through that kind of just slipped in there. And I really want to elevate the information that was provided, because I think it's a disservice to the county not to elevate the issue and share it broader in the community and also with our partners about the decline in the forecast for the SHS, the Supportive Housing Services money. The reason why it's important, because there's an ongoing discussion by Metro about changing the measure. I'm really clear from talking to community members that there's an expectation that the county has the resources through the very generous support for the tax, and that their expectation that we make measurable progress and improvements in the number of homeless in our community, and that there's people have a path to housing. And so I'm concerned that what we heard, and I really appreciate the presentation that we got, but the reality is mid-year Metro has informed us, apparently last December, that we would be receiving significantly less money this year than last year. They had originally forecast that Multnomah County was going to get 156 million. The revised forecast that we got in December is that they're actually going to give us 134 million. And I believe we should be really clear with the community what that means, which would mean we'd be making mid-year reductions in programmatic supports and decisions we've made about our homeless services. And having been at a school district where mid-year reductions had been made, it's the absolute worst way to make reductions versus in a planful way. So for Metro to quietly send over, like, by the way, we're going to be providing significantly less revenue to the county to actually deliver the services, which I think the community rightfully expects the county to deliver, I think is something that we need to immediately be engaging with Metro, especially as they're planning on distributing the money, like sending something out to voters that potentially would make further reductions in the amount of resources we would have. I also think it's incumbent on this board to have a pretty strong statement vis-a-vis to Metro about the reductions, and also our point of view about the measure that's going to be going out. From my perspective, I look at the budget. Metro has currently about 32 million in their carryover in their administrative pot of money that could be utilized by the counties, or could be utilized to Metro to backfill that gap they've created. And I think as a county, we should be speaking up early before we get to the point in March when we're having to make some really tough decisions if that revenue projection stands and they don't backfill those cuts. So I would like the commission to take a very strong position and have a coordinated message to Metro, not only about this, but also on our point of view regarding the their plans for the measure, which don't seem well thought out, and they promised a lot of things to a lot of people and seem to be not placing at the center the core services, which I think voters approved. So I would hope we would be able to have a coordinated point of view that gets communicated.
Yeah, and I appreciate, we have sent messages, or we have sent letters from the board, sometimes with all of the board members on. I think it would be great if we did that. I mean, we do have an opportunity on Friday with a meeting to have this, and I know I've already spoken with several of you about that meeting, and I know Commissioner Moyer and I are meeting today to talk about this. So my office can take lead on starting to draft a letter that reflects some of our shared points and share it with you, and we can, if we can commit to getting a fast turnaround on that, we can have that ready to deliver. I did share with all of you earlier this week the letter that came from the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. So this is something where, you know, this is something that I think there is a lot of strong feelings on, both at the city and county level, and the steps that Metro is taking. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And it would be great to have everybody committed to signing on to that letter if we can get there.
Sorry, just a point of clarification. That's great. I really appreciate that. Given there's a meeting tomorrow, and in the presentation we had on Tuesday, it said they were moving forward with the referral potentially next week. It seems like time is of the essence. And again, I feel like they have put something forward that's a little bit half-baked and has overcommitted to many different stakeholder groups. But the one stakeholder group that I think they have not really thought through is like the actual core mission and reason for the measure, which was to provide homeless services. And I feel like that's getting left, and they're dividing up resources, including taking money for their own purposes, for their administrative costs, and not centering, I think, what voters really clearly said, this is a priority for our community and we want it to be invested in, and we want to see a measurable reduction in the people who are living both unsheltered and without housing.
Yeah, so to clarify the timeline, so there's the meeting, a stakeholder meeting on Friday, which we are going to have both staff and board members attend. And then they are having a work session on January 16th for the Metro counselors. Followed by a first reading and public hearing on January 23rd. And then that would be subsequently followed by a second reading, but the date of that has not been established yet. So that's the timeline.
Yeah, I would like to echo Commissioner Brim Edwards' comments, and I am eager to join in if we are able to find a letter we could all sign on to. You know, I too would like to talk to Metro about how we mitigate potential mid-year cuts, because I am extremely nervous about doing that in a way that does not have a ramping down possibility. And I also look forward to a letter that communicates our continued commitment to delivering on those services, and keeping that focus that I think voters have now in repeated different elections said, which is reducing unsheltered homelessness and supporting people in being able to transition into permanent housing. And you know, I have had the opportunity to speak to some Metro counselors this week, just honestly, a little bit of catch up and a little bit of, hey, I know that I'm new, but I am wildly supportive of this funding stream and what it can do for our community, and just really want to ensure that we are communicating with our voters and putting, you know, the work that we need to do in to make the strongest case possible for the future of this. And I'm, from my perspective, a little bit of caution around, is now that time? Have we made that case yet in order to make voters realize how vital this funding stream is and how it will hopefully allow us to change lives?
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. I just had, I think I'll just briefly say, I appreciate the comments and definitely will carry what I heard on Tuesday as well as today into discussions, whether on Friday or with folks at Metro and some of the other stakeholders as well as these conversations continue. So I appreciate that being uplifted. I did have one thing that's non-SHS related. I just want to appreciate the folks at the library for finding way to get a mobile library set up in St. John's to replace and really bring some services back to the community. And so I appreciate the hard work. I know it's hard to cite that mobile library, and I know there's more work to do. So I look forward to partnering with them to make sure we have enough services for folks during that closure. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Moyer, did you have any other? No. Okay, great. I had just a couple of things. First of all, I just wanted to thank each of you for such a really good, solid first meeting. I really appreciate it. I look forward to your leadership across the whole spectrum of issues that we cover here at the county. And I'm really looking forward to our time together next Tuesday to talk about our board priorities. I have been working with Jenny and Marina on the kind of an annual board calendar. I will say one of the things that is key to the success of being planful like that is early planning and communication from you all in terms of any, planned vacations or conference attendance or things like that, so that we can have some predictability in what we're trying to lay out as we're planning how we're going to set those things up. So early notification is always helpful. So we'll be able to share some of that on Tuesday. I did also just want to acknowledge that today we are laying to rest our 39th president, Jimmy Carter. As a nation. He was the first president that I can remember. And I will say that he has, throughout his lifetime, has been a guiding light for so many servant leaders across this country. He has been the longest serving post-president in our nation's history. And while memories of his actual presidency are fairly vague, because I think I was 4 years old when his term ended, his service and his diplomacy after his term in office have really led an indelible mark on me and the way I think about leadership. So I know his wisdom and his legacy is going to continue to come alongside us in times of need. And so I just want to say, send love to his family, friends, community, and the many people who are mourning and celebrating him today. I also just wanted to give a shout out to our government relations team and all of you and staff, as well as our so many leaders at the county who showed up for our legislative breakfast yesterday. I thought it was a really great start, and we were able to celebrate at our brand newly renovated Midland Library. It really kicked off the legislative advocacy for the upcoming long legislative session that begins on January 21st. I want to say thank you to all the legislators who took time out of their very busy schedules who were here today. It was great to also have our district attorney, our auditor, and our sheriff join us as well in that. I just wanted to share that our legislative agenda is also online for anyone who is looking at it. I wanted to lastly thank the quick work of our homeless response system and the joint office teams, and working closely with Mayor Wilson, the City of Portland, and the Salvation Army to begin opening 200 seasonal overnight shelter beds this week that support people who might otherwise be sleeping out in the cold tonight. These beds are in addition to the hundreds more severe weather shelter beds that will be open during an extreme weather event. These particular beds will become 24-hour beds should we face a severe weather emergency in the coming weeks. We know that we have a La Nina winter predicted for our region, and we already have seen this wreaking havoc in other parts of the country on the East Coast right now. So this added capacity to our sheltering system is so needed and so welcome. It was also Mayor Wilson's commitment of city partnerships during a severe weather event that really helped to make these resources possible. So that's the kind of partnership that I know that we are committed to, and that makes a huge difference in our ability to stand up services for those winter events. So really just appreciate the partnership and the spirit of this work together. And I think that bodes well for the continuing work between the city and the county. So I want to thank everyone. That concludes today's regular board meeting. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned.